Have you ever needed to achieve something important, but you could not do it by yourself, no matter how hard you try? And when it finally happens, it is called a miracle. The most recent miracle in my life took 6 months to happen. And during that 6 months, I found the whole process to be absolutely frustrating to the point that I didn't think that it would ever happen. Even when it finally happened, I still had my doubts. I still thought it could be taken away from me. That was how inadequate I was in the face of this task. It would not have happened without God. Everybody told me it was impossible. I was rejected multiple times. So when it finally happened, I could not believe it. And that is why it's called a miracle. I know that without God, it would not have happened. And all of the glory goes to God. I did everything I could do to make it happen, and I just keep getting blocked every single time. Obstacle after obstacle. It was frustrating, demoralizing. And when I look at my life and all of the miracles that have happened thus far, a lot of them are like that. Faced with an impossible task, doing everything I could possibly do to make it happen, without breaking any laws or doing anything unethical or immoral, of course.
So it took me 6 months to refinance my house, and it was filled with such frustration every single step of the way. Like every time I got more requirements requested of me, I got more and more frustrated. And it was like, I don't know if this is what God wanted me to do, but I had to do it because if I did not refinance my house, I would not be able to afford my mortgage come 2025 because I'll get a balloon payment. So I did not have a choice and I had to refinance. But there was a lot of confusion behind, is this the right time to refinance because interest rates are really high and next year it should go down. So to me, really, I have surrendered that whole loan process to God. And I just told God, if it is your will that I get this refinance, it will go through. And if this is not the right time and this is the wrong move, then just stop it completely. Just decline it. I don't care. I don't need to get this loan if it's not the right time. Even though I have worked 6 months to get this loan. I started applying in April. I was declined in May. I went to a different lender, applied again. I was declined again a couple months later. I went back and said, hey, I actually have the requirements you requested of me. And so please check with them again to see if I can get this loan. So the entire process was just filled with friction and it was just so hard to get this done. I actually spoke with all the other lenders that I've worked with in the past because I am in real estate and I have purchased plenty of houses before. And every one of them told me that it is impossible for me to get a loan right now. Impossible. None of them can do it. And they have done miraculous loans for me before. And it's just, it could not be done this time around because during COVID, because I work in the medical field, I decided not to work. And so I had a gap in my employment history where I stopped working in 2019 and didn't go back to work until 2022. And that was an insurmountable amount of time to be out of work. So miracle number 1 is that I got the new job, which prompted me being able to get the refinance. And that getting that job loan was really hard. Miracle number 2 is that the old job was extended and I got a pay raise because I asked them to match the pay that I'm currently getting in my new job, which is exceedingly above what they're paying me in the old job. And they said they could not, but they wanted to keep me until they found a replacement. And it actually took them about 4 months to find a replacement. And I thought it would only take them a month or 2 at the most. Miracle number 3, even though they found a replacement, the doctor I worked with didn't want to use the replacement and he decided to leave the company and actually venture out by himself. So instead of using the new person that they hired, he decided to just work with me until he left the company. Miracle number 4 is that the day he was done, it was October, okay? October, my loan was not done. It was not closed, okay? October 1st was his last day. So the district manager texted me that day and said, hey, since the doctor left the company and you're no longer working with him and you've completed everything that you needed to complete, please send me a resignation letter again. I could not send her prepare the resignation letter because I have not closed on the loan. So if I were to resign from that position, then I would not be able to close the loan, considering how that is my 20K income that I needed for the refinance. So on the same day, that was the morning, she sent me that text. In the evening, the office manager sent an email to the doctor saying, hey, actually you have outstanding notes you need to sign. And I was like, well, he can do it himself. He doesn't need me. So I didn't respond to that email. And then the doctor sent me an email saying, hey, can you actually help me finish all of these notes by this weekend? Which, knowing him, it would never be done by the weekend, considering how he had a backlog since 2020 till present. You know, it's like... So that 20K job, I still have it, even though I have closed the loan. Keep in mind, every single week, they're giving me more and more requirements during this whole process. So I was so frustrated. Like every week, they're like, give me more employment verification. Can you tell your employer to sign this letter for me? Miracle number 5 is this doctor that I work with drag on so much, okay? He procrastinates like no other. And he was doing me a favor. I didn't want to bother him. He just dragged on from like 2-3 weeks to sign a piece of paper. And I felt so bad because I actually asked someone else to ask him to sign my paper. And then he's like, tell her that I am busy and I will get to it later, right? Like so sternly. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's like totally annoyed with me by now. It's like... So the next day, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go see him personally just to get him to sign it. I have to pray before I go. I'm like, okay, if this is what you want me to do, Lord, I'm gonna go. But I'm like really scared and really nervous. So I went. And of course, when he sees you in person, he's like really nice. It's like, oh yeah, let's do this. You know, so many requirements every single week. They just keep coming up with something new. And they're just like, oh, okay, well, now we have to send it back to the underwriter and they're gonna tell us if something's missing. And then they're like back and forth over and over and over.
Miracle number 6. 2 weeks before final approval, the underwriters decided to look into an LLC that was not related to my personal finances. After I provided the LLC documents, they found more things related to the LLC and wanted to get more information about another company that is unrelated to me. And after a week of wanting more documents of these companies that are unrelated to me, I was so frustrated that I actually sent them an email and said, you are going down a rabbit hole that has nothing to do with me. I do not own these companies. These companies are unrelated to my personal finances. And I was just frustrated and fed up with all of the delay. I was so frustrated thinking that the agent wasn't really helping me that I went to his boss, and his boss reassured me that without this agent, nobody would be fighting this hard for me because they already declined me the first time. But because this agent is still fighting for me, that's why this loan is still alive.
Typically, once I get to the signing of the papers, I'm done, okay? That means my loan is closing, I am done. But this time around, I was rife with so much anxiety that even after I signed the papers, I didn't think that it was done. But on a Tuesday, I actually got an email that it was closed, and I was like, it's closed. It's done. It funded. Okay, they funded the loan, meaning they already gave you the money, meaning it's already closed. But in my mind, it's still not closed until they actually recorded the loan. Okay, to me, it's not closed until they recorded. So I had to wait again for another day because I was like, well, I don't know when they're gonna record it. They didn't tell me, all right? And the next day, I had to email them and it's like, hey, did the recording go through? Is it done? I was like, okay, it's recorded. It's done. It's finalized. Kaput. Okay, the loan is yours. And in my head, I'm like, well, can they like change their minds? You know? Can they change their minds? Can they just like rescind the loan and all that stuff? And it was just like, oh my goodness. It was so hard that even though it happened, I could not believe it. It was just like, wow. Because everybody told me it could not happen. They declined me so many times and there was just no hope. Right? And I just kept chugging along saying, okay, I'm gonna keep giving you what you need, even though I find this frustrating and I just want to give up every single time you send me a requirement list. I just kept going at it and going at it and going at it. Even though the entire time I was just like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay, but I'm gonna do my best. And I'm just gonna keep going. And if it's God's will, it's gonna happen. Right? So how many miracles happened during that time? And I still just kept on not believing and not believing and not believing. Of course, every step of the way, I'm just like, praise God. Right? Because I know that I could not have done it by myself. So every step of the way is like, praise God. So for people who are believing for your miracle, do not give up. God will make a way when there is no way. And if you are doing what God called you to do, then He will make a way. God provided every step of the way. And it was nothing I could have influenced, right? I could not have begged my old employer to extend my employment. I could not beg them to give me a raise because they don't care. I've worked with these people for like a year and they did not care. And I knew this because when I asked the district manager to be my reference for my new job, she said she couldn't. So I knew that she was not the type of person who would actually help me out. So I myself as a human being would not have been able to convince her to give me a job, to do all of these things. It's just a favor of God.
Especially when God was the one who provided me with this new job that allowed me to be able to refinance my house. And I shared the testimony of how impossible it was to get this new job right here.